I'm not going to draw this down tight for a couple of reasons. The main one is that if I do pull it all the way down and then even a little bit of air goes in, then we'll have a rich air in there again.
Okay.
Right now we don't. So we just want to keep this in. We want only stuff to be going out up to the point where it seals.
Okay. So you got.
So we sealed it on the way down. It's still
flexible.
It's still
You
flexible.
still have
It's not
some
pulled down as tight as it was.
nitrogen.
This is Peak Moment. We are living at a peak of human innovation, information, wealth, and health. But we're also at a peak of population and consumption, with rising temperatures and declining resources fueled by cheap oil and gas. Peak Moment Television, bringing you examples of positive responses to energy decline and climate change through local community action.
Hi, I'm Janaea Donaldson. Welcome to Peak Moment. I'm in my hometown of Nevada City, and I'm here for a community bulk food storage workshop. I'm at the Apple Center. It's a sustainability resource center. Apple stands for Alliance for a Post-Petroleum Local Economy, and it started in '05 after we got aware of peak oil and wanted to educate and work with our community to be prepared for the era after cheap oil. Apple opened a resource center in the fall of '09 and have a library, a workshop space, exhibit space, and it is a resource for our community and our tourists. So come on in and join me. Let's see, how do we do this bulk food storage? I'm here with Jim Ray, who is a local tinkerer who's put together the equipment for us to be able to, in the community, bag food storage. Thank you for doing it, and thank you for your tour.
Most welcome.
So, how do we start, and where do we start?
Well, perhaps just to see, this is the type of result that you're going to get. And this is a food grade bagging material.
Okay.
And the air's been removed and it's been replaced with nitrogen. So it's about 90% replacement.
And so it's flexible, and you can just store it off in
Right.
the buckets.
It's not a vacuum. It's not a vacuum. It's a replacement of the air with nitrogen.
Okay. So that's what we end up with. How do we start?
And so what we have to do actually try to keep this as simple as possible. I wanted to keep it something that I could afford to do. The bagging is actually available. It's readily available from suppliers of this sort of thing, okay. And quite inexpensive this way. I mean, this bagging right here is about 2 cents a foot.
So it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Food grade.
Yeah. Well, actually, this bagging right here, I guess, is actually more like 8 cents a foot. This is a heavier bagging.
Okay.
I think it's more appropriate.
And you built just a box with a dowel so it can enroll?
Yeah, it's just a simple thing so it can be carried around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A couple of tabs.
And pivots.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the bag.
Yeah, that's the bag. And then the bagging is designed to be used with a heat sealer. This is called an impulse sealer.
Okay.
These also readily available.
And
this I got on the internet.
So the impulse, I see it's got a knob on it, and so what happens? How does it heat?
Well, it's got an electric heater in there, and it times it when you push it down. It'll heat it for its own the time according to what the setting is.
I see.
And then that takes care of the bagging. Then the rest of the issue is how to deal with getting the air replaced, how to get the nitrogen in it. So we've got a little vacuum cleaner. This is a Sharp, little hand vacuum cleaner, and these are just pieces of drip irrigation tubing, 1/2 inch, with a brass fitting on the end. This is going to be our vacuum input right here.
So this is where you're going to suck the air out.
Right.
Using this part. Okay.
Right. And one problem a person can have in trying to use a vacuum cleaner like this to do this is if you put the vacuum directly to the bag, and when the air is all removed, there's no cooling flow over the motor. And so you'll quickly burn the motor out, just a little
Okay.
bit of use.
Okay.
So you don't want to use it like that. So instead, what we've got is a bypass. And with the bypass...
Which is another piece of this sort,
Yeah,
the
just
same
another
tubing?
piece of this tubing. Now, enough air goes through here to keep the motor cool.
Okay, so make sure I understand. This air is sucking air out of the bag.
Right.
But this air is coming back and keeping the little motor cool.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
if you need a little more, you can put your finger over this momentarily, and that'll increase it. But it provides enough suction, you'll be surprised. Then the nitrogen part, we've got a nitrogen tank, and you can get these bottles. And the nitrogen, the people where you buy the bottle, they'll give you all the information on how you have to handle it and take care with
Safety
it and so
okay,
forth.
all
Right.
right.
Because you do need to handle these with reasonable care. And then this is a regulator that you also would get from the nitrogen bottle people.
All right. So there's two things here. What are they each about?
Well, the one shows you the pressure in the bottle. When you open the bottle valve, that'll
Okay.
record on this one. And this one shows you the pressure that you've got on the output line. So that's anything will do on the output line. It's got just a little, I'll show you this in a second. I set it for about 20 pounds or so, output pressure.
Okay.
And then at the output side, in order to get the air into the bag,
And to get the nitrogen in.
the nitrogen
Uh-huh.
into the bag, yeah. So I've modified a little air nozzle by just using a sports ball inflator.
Oh, okay.
Because you'll see that you don't want a big
a big
opening there when you're
okay.
doing that. So this is pretty convenient. And then you need
a little
a
quick release
connector.
kind of connector.
Yeah, typical
to,
connector. All this actually came in one of the kit at
One
at Harbor Freight. If I could
All right.
let me give them a plug. They're pretty good at this stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want, we can just go ahead and hook this up right
Sure.
now because we're going to want to use it. This is a regular right-hand thread. Get good and tight by hand. 1 1/8 inch. This should be good and tight because you don't want your gas to leak out of that valve. So now we've opened up and you can see the pressure. This bottle tank is full and it's got about 2,000 PSI in the full bottle, and this will do that whole roll practically.
Great.
Almost a ton of food.
Wow. One tank of nitrogen. About how much does that cost to get it filled?
I think Lorraine said that it cost her $23.
Not bad for a ton of food.
Right. So I'm setting this to set that you have to let the pressure off to see what your reading is. So there's a pretty good flow.
A little over 20. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty.
So that's ready to go. And the vacuum it's ready to go.
Okay.
And we could actually bag something. Now,
Well,
you might notice that already there's a seal on the end of the bag here.
right.
Because you want to be sure you keep this seal, that way it keeps it clean.
Oh,
And we can make some bags. Let's make some bags here. So when you use the impulse sealer, after the heat impulse, you want to hold it down for 6 or 7 or 8 seconds
Okay.
because the plastic has to cool back to its original temperature or it's going to tear.
Okay.
So we'll just pull a few of these off. And I'm going to pull this down to about here.
So you kind of use this board as a
Yeah,
kind
I
of
kinda use
measure
it as a
guide.
sort
That's
of a
kind of
gauge.
nice, smart. So you just, you know, you have your assembly all, and the same thing here with a distance
Right. Now
between
you'll
these
see
two.
the reason for these has to do with putting the bag on the, getting the bag on here without a lot
later
of
when we-
difficulty. Yeah. So making the bags is pretty, this is a lot of fun, I think. This is my kind of work.
It's just straightforward
Yeah,
and
it's pretty
simple, and there's nothing
straightforward.
tricky
Yeah,
about it.
Yeah.
I
But
like
notice,
that.
we are holding this thing down for a while after the impulse is over. So
So
otherwise,
you heat impulse and then you let it cool.
yeah, otherwise this just melts apart. Now, I think we've got enough bags. So
do.
see, this seal now is sealing the roll. So we're going to cut these bags off on the right-hand side of that. So the roll is still sealed.
Aha.
And that means our bags are going to be like this. There's one of them. There's one. A bag there.
All right.
So here's some bags. And if we had something to put in them, we could bag it up.
Well, I just happened to bring along
Okay,
some grain I
fantastic.
want to have stored. So how much do you,
Well,
you'll show me how much we
One
fill
of
it.
those, a scoop, you want to fill that up a little more maybe, although we may get it in things. That scoop like that's going to hold about 1 pound. Let's put about,
So this is something else you just got at a
Yeah,
hardware store or
yeah,
a cooking store? Or,
actually from the hardware store.
So
Let's put 5 of those in and see how we do.
a little more? It
Okay.
wasn't quite full.
That's good. Good. So now here's the thing about this. We want this material to not be more than half, from 1/3 to half of what this bag can hold. And keep in mind it's going to be sealed.
Okay.
So we're pretty close to, you know,
A third.
between 1/3 and a half.
Yeah.
The reason for that is in between the grains, even when we pull this down, pull the air out, there's going to be air in between the grains.
Okay.
And on a grain of this shape, it's going to be about 1/3. If it was a perfectly round thing, it'd be about half of this
Would be-
space. Half of this volume would still be air in
I
there.
see. Okay. Okay. This is more
So,
compact.
yeah, so there's a little bit more. So if we want to get it down to something like 90% nitrogen, then we have to take into account that we're not going to be able to pull the air out of here. So we want this space to fill up with nitrogen. So let's seal this.
Same way that we did the bags, right?
Yeah.
Right. Just
Yeah, same way we made them.
So be gentle with it, huh?
Now we lost a little bag volume, but we'll be okay. So now we'll just rotate this around like this. We're going to trim this corner off so we can get the air out
And
of it.
you have just a teeny bit of it cut off, maybe
About
3/4 of an inch?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. And then you can kind of rotate it like that to pop
Between
that
your thumb and your
opening up.
fingers to just get it open. Okay. And you've inserted the.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna
vacuum.
turn it
Go ahead.
on. I'm gonna pull the air out of it.
Give me-
Okay. Yeah, the air is out now. Yeah.
Now, do you? How do you know when to stop?
In this case, we want it all out. We want as much as possible.
But if these were round, like little.
It's the same difference.
Okay. You
Yeah.
want most all the air.
You
the
want
air
you want to
out.
get it all out.
Okay.
And what's left is what's in between the grains.
Okay.
And then what we put in wants to be 10 times or so what's in between those grains. If we do that, we're going to have 10
good
times
mix
the
of
nitrogen that was
nitrogen.
in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Now you're filling it with the nitrogen.
yeah. So now we put the nitrogen in.
So you're filling it up to like a big balloon.
Yeah. I'm not going to.
Almost
I'm not going to make it tight because I really don't want to stretch the bag. But right there is good.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than we need. But now we've got nitrogen in a ratio to the air in between that, which is, 8 or 10 times. We
More
might get-
than the air than you have between the little
Yeah.
lentils.
Yeah, because
Okay.
this is all nitrogen now, just a little bit of air. Now that's the atmosphere we're gonna save it in.
Okay.
But we don't really need and don't want all that in there. So we're going to pull some of that back out. We could just push it out. I'm going to pull it out.
So you could do it without the vacuum. You could just push it by hand.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, this is just faster to do it with the vacuum.
Now I'm going to turn this on, but I'm not going to draw this down tight for a couple of reasons. The main one is that if I do pull it all the way down and then even a little bit of air goes in, then we'll have a rich air in there again.
Okay.
Right now
Or
we don't.
oxygen.
So we just want to keep this in. We want only stuff to be going out up to the point where it seals.
Okay. So you got.
So we sealed it on the way down. It's still
flexible. You
flexible.
have
It's not
some
pulled down as tight as it
nitrogen.
was.
Well, there was some tricky handwork in there. I could see that you had left hand on. I mean, well, okay.
That's
Nice.
the way it is.
I see. You've got most of the air out, so you don't have to be storing bubbles.
Right. Most of the nitrogen actually now. Taking the air out with it. So that's about a 90% nitrogen replacement.
That's wonderful. And people have suggested date this, put the date on it, so you know when you've packaged
Right,
it,
right.
and store it in your.
And you can put this in, you put this in a non-food grade bucket now or something like that because
it's food grade.
yeah, because
So-
it's not gonna.
You could just get buckets at the wherever,
Right.
the store, and just store them in that. So I want to, what other kinds of precautions do we need to people need to think about? I could see that there's some real subtlety with getting the nitrogen to not go and the sealer on and so on in that last step.
Well, you can get more or less efficient with how you work with your hands on the thing, but I mean that's basically
That's how
the
to do
theme.
it. I'm sure that maybe two people doing it might make it easier with all the different tools.
Well, one person can do it readily.
But you did
Yeah.
I mean, you did.
Yeah.
You did it.
No, people should feel like they can do it by themselves.
How much did this whole setup cost? About, just roughly.
Well, I'm going to say roughly 500 is probably a bit more than that. Depends on how lucky you are to get some of the parts.
Okay. So that's not a horrible investment for a community to be able to then make
But
this
that
available for
and that
people.
includes the $25 shipping on the $95 worth of material and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And that includes if a community is starting from scratch, that includes almost the price of the bottle.
Of the nitrogen.
And
Okay.
right. But once you have that system going, then the bagging, again, the bagging is, this is 1,450 feet of bagging, and with the shipping, it was $130.
So maybe what we're just,
And the nitrogen use at $23 for the refill, it's going to fill close to well over 1,000, 1,500, maybe almost 2,000 pounds of material, depending on what the material is, for $23. So that's a couple of pennies. So you're talking about maybe 10 cents for 5 pounds, which is about 2 cents a pound of just replacement cost.
Right, right. And then over time you can pay off your equipment.
Yeah, the equipment, it might be 5 cents a pound if you're figuring your equipment, 2 cents a pound on long term.
This is wonderful. I hope a lot of communities take this on, and I'm relieved to know that even though you could be a rocket scientist putting all of this together, the rest of us don't need to be to learn how to use it. Thank you for doing this for
You're
us,
so
for our
welcome.
community.
So welcome.
And I hope that you have somebody in your community that will help you do it for you. You're watching Peak Moment, locally reliant living for challenging times. I'm Janaea Donaldson. I'm with Jim Ray. Join us next time. I'm with my guest, who's a friend and a long-term neighbor and friend, Lorraine Webb. The project you started is called the Neighborhood Readiness Project.
Yes.
Neighborhood Readiness Project. What is it?
Well, there seems to be a lot of, I just have this sense of unreadiness in the communities and in the United States, probably in the world, but just the banking crisis frightened everyone. And I went to buy my staples and get them stored and do my part, and I made sure that I got enough for my neighborhood. And then I thought, well, where does that end? And if the supply trucks for the local markets stop rolling for any reason, natural disaster, food, fuel supply shortage, any reason, the local markets have 3 days of supplies. So I just had this vision that if every neighborhood in our county is what I was willing to take on, and then hopefully model for other counties. If people purchase these foodstuffs and we can help them get them long-term stored, and make it easy for them was the idea. Then people who will purchase at a discount their foodstuffs will be able to use them however they want. We would hope that they would do long-term storage. We're going to reinitiate the program in 3 years to encourage foodstuff rotation. But the idea is to have every neighborhood be ready to be self-regulating, take care of one another.
So what did you do in setting up your program? You have this vision. So what are the parts to it? You have equipment. I mean, people could just buy the bulk foods and store them in buckets. That can be done.
That can be done, and if people would like to go to the website, which is neighborrp.org, we've compiled a whole list of very low-cost sites which have already packaged with nitrogen, with oxygen absorbers. We found sites that are organic, sites that feel quite conscious, and people can just purchase outside of the program. We're not interested in fact, this is a no-cost program. It's entirely volunteer. But we want to make it easy for people.
So one step is you could go buy already made kits.
Yes.
Bulk
Yes.
storage.
Let's do it ourselves,
So
kids.
what you're doing, yes,
Yeah.
here is then also, for people who want a less expensive way to go about that, is to package it themselves.
Right, and the research that we've done indicates that it might be a better way to package too. We're offering Jim Ray, who will be showing you how he does what he does here, has compiled this very efficient, low-cost way to replace oxygen with nitrogen, which is our non-greenhouse gas of choice. It's safe to be released into the atmosphere. And also, various studies have been done from very good storage from anywhere from 3 to 10 years.
Okay, so we have a set of equipment that people can do their own packaging, right, with nitrogen.
Yes.
It's replacing the oxygen. And you also arrange for people to be able to get discounts on buying bulk from local stores.
Another aspect of the campaign, we wanted it to be very inclusive of not only the public but the marketers, the suppliers. So we approached all of not the chain stores, but the locally owned markets, most of which were health food stores. Some all had a component of organic. And all of them said, yes, we will participate for a short term with this program. We offered it initially as a 2-month short-term food campaign. We got people to help with advertising. We just really got the word out there. And now we're going to encourage it to be an ongoing campaign. People are still calling, wanting help with packaging their foods and that kind of thing. So we're going to leave the website up. And several of the marketers are going to continue.
So what they offered is the ability to buy the bulk bag, you know, quantity.
25-pound bags of dried staple foods
Okay, for a
At-
discount.
at cost plus 10%.
That's, I mean, that's a benefit to anybody. So what kinds of foods can one store? Let's just think about, you know, just an idea, a rough idea for
Well,
people.
dried foods.
Anything dried,
Yeah.
sugar, legumes, grains, rice, of course, and so on. Dried fruits,
Sure.
nuts. One could live on all of this.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, we're just interested in getting people to be regionally self-sustainable.
That's thanks.
So neighborrp.org.
neighborrp.org.
And thank you, and Robin, for all that you're doing.